Good morning, good morning, good morning. What a great day to be alive. What a great day to be here. What a great day to be able to come to the best center ever. This is consciousness that creates this center. I'm so glad to see everybody. It's Easter, and so we are talking about Jesus. Fascinating man. 2,000 years ago, with just 33 years under his belt, transformed the lives of billions of people. Boy, I'd like that consciousness. I'd like to be able to have the impact that somebody like that had. In this teaching, in Science of Mind, we don't believe that Jesus is different than us. And that's what makes us that's what makes us different than most of the people who talk about Jesus on Easter. We don't deny the divinity of Jesus. Jesus was a divine being, but we affirm the divinity of all of us. Each and every one of us is made out of that same divine consciousness that the man Jesus was. And whether or not he was born into that consciousness or whether he grew into it, he still ended up in that enlightened state. So when we say Jesus Christ, it's Jesus the enlightened one. And each one of us has the ability to achieve that same state of enlightenment. That's what we're all about. We have this idea that says there's only one thing going on in the universe. Physics keeps saying that over and over and over again. It's a unified field, it's a oneness, and in order for a oneness to exist, it must exist in its totality at every point simultaneously. We say God is all there is. And since God is all there is, then whenever that infinite presence of spirit manifested into form, the only thing it could manifest out of was itself. And so whatever God is, God became that which it created. So God became heaven and earth, time and space, universe layers, but each and every one of us, we are made of God stuff. We are made of spirit. And so when we look at Buddha or Jesus or any of the other enlightened beings on the planet, we are made of the same stuff that they are. I can't say were because really there's no time and space, so there is no word, there's only now. So we're made of that same God stuff. Hence our journey. Easier said than done. Okay, why haven't you achieved Christ consciousness yet? Why haven't you demonstrated your amazing enlightened state? Well, that's the journey of our lives. It doesn't mean that we don't have it just because we haven't manifested it yet. It means that that is our journey. And so when we talk about the man Jesus and his journey, there are a lot of similarities that we have. He didn't have everything just laid out for him, sweet to go. He was born in a manger. He had poor parents. He was, some would say, sold to the Magi, which is where the gold and myrrh and frankincense came from. That when the wise men came from Persia, that would be Iraq, they were actually the Magi, and they came to work a deal with Joseph and Mary. They came and they said, we want this kid. He's something. We want him. We'll take him when he's about 13. And we'll turn him loose when he's about 30. That's why there's no records of it. And so he went off to go live with strangers and to learn his craft which was healing the sick and raising the dead and turning water into wine. I think it's very cool that that was his first miracle. He went off to learn his craft, and things were not always smooth sailing for him. He wasn't all, I say often that the traditional idea of God, which is a guy on a cloud with an attitude problem, could use some therapy. Jesus could have used some therapy. He didn't have it all worked out. When he came back into Jerusalem after Passover, one of the first things he did was go to the temple, and he was not a happy camper. They were charging the people funds to take their shekels, which is the Israeli currency, and turn them into the Roman coin because they couldn't make an offering with their original currency. They had to turn it into the Roman currency, and they paid dearly for it. And Jesus didn't think that God cared whether they brought shekels or Roman coin, and so he kicked over tables and yelled and screamed and threw people out. I mean, maybe he knew what kind of a week he was going to have. Somebody that enlightened, really? You think he went into Jerusalem and had no idea what was coming? Of course he did. And so when we look at that life, we look at what he had to work with, and let's not put him on this giant pedestal, because the only purpose of putting Jesus on a pedestal is to put us down. And if we're all made out of the same stuff, if Jesus is the great example and not the great exception, then we are all on our paths to enlightenment together. So let's not put him on a huge pedestal. Let's look and see what the similarities are. Sometimes we have bad days. Sometimes we walk into things that we know, maybe not feel good. Maybe not work out exactly like we want them to work out. Let's look at some of these things that he's moved into, but moved into very willingly and very clearly. I marvel at the guy. At the Last Supper, which was that a Seder? So at the Last Seder with Jesus, he said, one of you is going to betray me. And Thomas said, okay. Not Thomas, Judas said, okay, that's the way you want it to go down, that's the way it'll go down. So he knew these things. It wasn't all smooth sailing. There wasn't a red carpet rolled out for him. And sometimes I think that we look at our lives and go, well, I'm not going to achieve my spiritual growth until it's easier. Sweetie, it doesn't get any easier than this. You're coming to Center for Spiritual Living Asheville. You've got John and Barbara Waterhouse and Sally Robbins and Steve Worthing and 30 practitioners all to help you. It does not get any easier than this. To be told that you are God in form, let loose on this planet, that you are the one that you have been waiting for. You are the only one that is. To be told that and have your hand held while you let go of the old and rise up into the new. I was going to call this talk, Let Go. Just let it go. Because as soon as you let go, you're going to rise up. As soon as you stop holding yourself down, you're going to rise up. And, you may have people turn against you. Things might happen that hurt. Oh, I don't want to hurt. I just don't want it to hurt. Well, dig a hole, put your head in it, and bury yourself, and you'll never have to hurt again. But if you want to live fully, if you want to live the life that you've always been meant to live, then you may go through some level of uncomfort. I'm not saying no pain, no gain, because I don't believe in that. I believe there are opportunities to have great gain with no pain. But if there is pain, don't give up. Don't be afraid of it. Don't stop doing what you're doing. You may want to change the circumstances, especially if that pain is self-inflicted. Sometimes in my decades of counseling, I've got people who are hitting themselves in the head with a hammer and saying, please make it stop. Well, you're the one who's doing it. You keep making choices that hold you down and stop yourself before you rise up out of them, before you transform, before you grow into who you're meant to be. All because you're a little bit afraid. And I say you're better than that. I think Jesus knew he was going to be crucified. I think he absolutely knew that. And he was willing to go through that because of all of the good that it would bring. He ushered in the Piscean age. He changed everything. He took us from the God of the Israelites, the God of the Hebrews, which was a very vengeful, very neurotic, very mean kind of a God. And he gave us Abba. Papa. He gave us Papa. He said, the Father and I are one. God and me, we're tight. We're good, man. These my peeps. We got it going on. He brought in a whole new consciousness into humanity. I think that we have so much more because of that moment in time. And, I don't know. I didn't really want to go here, but is he real or not? I don't know. Did he really resurrect? I don't know. There are those who say that when Jesus was taken down off the cross, he was quite alive, and that he went into the tomb of Joseph of Arimathea, and he was tended to, and they got him out of town. People in India said that they have the grave of Jesus in India, that he married, he had lots of children. You may be a direct descendant. Who knows? I don't know, but does it really matter? Because if we're using this as a teaching statement, if we're using this as a teaching story, and we want to take from that something that will help us live a better life, then I don't really care whether it's a true story or not. Star Wars isn't true, and we quote that all the time. Do not. There is no try. What difference does it make if it's a true story or not? What difference does it make if people can take something and be better because of it? So, in the stories about Jesus, I don't have a lot of affinity. But the things that they say he actually said, they all seem to ring true. When the disciples said, "Master, tell us, where is the kingdom of heaven?" It's like we're on a scavenger hunt and we're looking for the kingdom of heaven and we can't find it. Where is it? And he said, if they tell you that it's in the sky, the birds will get there before you. If they tell you it's in the sea, the fish will get there before you. The kingdom of heaven is neither in the sky nor in the sea, it is within. So he says, the Father and I are one, and the kingdom of heaven is within. Now keep in mind, we have had 2 popes recently say that heaven and hell are states of consciousness. There is not a place called heaven that you go, and there is no hell where people burn forever. They are states of consciousness. 2 popes. And so we can put ourselves in hell if we want, but we can also get ourselves out. We can put ourselves in heaven if we want, and we can stay there as long as we like. Heaven and hell are states of consciousness, and they are within us. He also said in some of the Gospels that the Council of Nicaea in 300 AD did not think were appropriate for the masses to see. One was the Gospel of Mary. One was the Gospel of Thomas. I particularly like the Gospel of Thomas because it's edgy. He says he has not come to bring peace, but he has come with a sword to set fire to the world. Ooh. He also says that if you want to find me, break a piece of wood or lift up a stone. Break a piece of wood and you will find me. Lift a stone and I am there. Meaning that consciousness is everywhere. Because in order for a oneness to exist, a unity to exist, it must exist in its totality at every point simultaneously. That's math. Otherwise, the time-space continuum falls apart and we're not here. So whatever God is, God has to be present in us, as us, is us, now. We are not a little piece of God. And I'm not saying we're grokking this, that we're getting all of this. But the truth is that Spirit is present in its totality at the point of us now. That you are already the Christ. You are already the enlightened one. And the journey is to allow that to manifest as your life. To have the guts to go around and tell the lame to rise up and walk. Get up and walk. To spit in some mud and rub it on somebody's eyes and tell them to see. To have the guts to tell your people to go fishing and open the mouth of the first fish they catch, and they will have the coin that they need to pay their taxes. To render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. To go get what you need. To do it. To change the world. To be that person that you want to be. We already have it. And I think it's both a part of letting go and grabbing hold of something greater. And we say, oh no, I can't do that, I can't do that, I can't do that. And I tell you, yes, you can. Yes, you can, and it's not as difficult as you think. One of my favorite Easter stories is from Illusions. Once there lived a village of creatures along the bottom of a great crystal river. The current of the river swept silently over them all, young and old, rich and poor, good and evil, the current going its own way, knowing only its own crystal self. Each creature in its own way clung tightly to the twigs and rocks on the river bottom, for clinging was their way of life, and resisting the current what each had learned from birth. But one creature said at last, "I am tired of clinging. Though I cannot see it with my eyes, I trust that the current knows where it is going. I shall let go and let it take me where it may. Clinging, I shall die of boredom." The other creatures laughed and said, "Fool, let go, and that current you worship will throw you tumbled and smashed across the rocks, and you will die quicker than of boredom." But the one heedeth them not, and taking a breath did let go, and at once was tumbled and smashed by the current across the rocks. Oh, there's more. Yet in time, as the creature refused to cling again, the current lifted him free from the bottom, and he was bruised and hurt no more. And the creatures downstream, to whom he was a stranger, cried, "See a miracle! A creature like ourselves, yet he flies. See the Messiah come to save us all." And the one carried on the current said, "I am no more Messiah than you. The river delights to lift us free, if only we dare let go. Our true work is this voyage, this adventure." But they cried the more, "Savior," all the while clinging to the rocks. And when they looked again, he was gone, and they were left alone, making legends of a Savior. It is in us to let go. It is in us to allow that which we are, that presence of spirit, carry us over any seeming obstacles in our life. Even if we die, there's no place to go. We may lay our bodies down, but where can we go? We are eternal life. We are the energy of spirit. Einstein said matter doesn't even exist, that it is only energy slowed down enough for the senses to recognize it, that truly all there is energy and sound. Einstein. There's something within us that can supersede and transcend anything. And every time we create something, we create an opportunity for us to grow. Our resistance gets in our way. Every grape that goes into wine has to be crushed. Every diamond was held under immense pressure. When things happen, when the seed is planted in the ground, don't you think it looks around and says, "Oh my God, it's dark. What have I done to deserve this punishment?" Not realizing that changes are taking place to grow. When we can see the conflicts and the situations in our lives as opportunities for us to really be who we've come here to be and to grow into who we've been meant to be, then we can get in touch with that is already within us that can carry us through. It's the time of spring. The trees are bursting out. The insects are growing. Those of you who know what happens with a caterpillar, the caterpillar has no clue what's going on when it becomes a butterfly. It weaves a chrysalis around itself and turns into, the technical term is goo. Inside of the chrysalis, if you were to take a chrysalis and cut it open, it's full of goo, the caterpillar body having disintegrated. And also, technical term, comes the imaginal cell. The goo starts growing imaginal cells. Now, the caterpillar takes its immune system and tries to fight the imaginal cells, but the imaginal cells are stronger than the goo of the caterpillar. That within us is stronger than our goo. And without knowing anything about what's happening, that caterpillar stays in the goo, grows imaginal cells, and before you know it, comes out as this amazing butterfly, this beautiful winged creature. They don't know how they did it. You don't have to know how to do it. You just are committed to do it. That whatever comes up, you're going to handle it. Whatever is asked of you, you're going to rise to it. You're not going to cower and play small. You're not going to pretend that somehow God has abandoned you and you have a pass to just blow it in this life. That has not happened. You have all of the power of creation within you. You have the light of the divine within you. You can make miracles happen. We have miracles happen here all the time. You can make miracles happen in your life by trusting who you are. One of the things that has always puzzled me is the number of translations that the stories of Jesus have gone through. Some say that the New Testament has been translated well over 300 times. Can you imagine if we had a circle with all of us in it, and I said something to one person and it went around the room? I could say, John's got on a white suit, and by the time it's done, we're talking about dungeons and dragons and thrones and all kinds of eggs and bunnies and all kinds of stuff, because it's not going to stay the same. And then I think it was back in the 30s, some archaeologists unearthed some big vats buried in the sand. The first one was, I believe, the Dead Sea Scrolls, and then in Egypt it was the Nag Hammadi find. And the interesting thing is that there are people still alive in this world today that speak the same dialect of Aramaic that Jesus spoke. And so when they found these parchment scrolls still intact, they could be translated from the original. And there's a man who grew up in a village speaking Aramaic, became a scholar, and he took it upon himself as his life work to retranslate those scrolls. There are a couple of interesting changes. This is the translation of the Lamsa Bible by George Lamsa from those original texts. One is in the Lord's Prayer. You know, in the Lord's Prayer where it says, "Don't lead us into temptation," you have this giant, all-powerful, anthropomorphic deity who's going to lead us into temptation. That's a neurotic thing. Don't do that to me. Don't set me up to fail. Don't lead me into temptation. It didn't say that. It said, don't let me enter into temptation. If I'm doing something really stupid, could you give me a little nudge? Could you have my back a little bit? Could you just remind me that I don't need to go down this path again? If I'm going into temptation, is there not something beyond my conscious awareness, my personality, that could rise up to help me not screw up so much? That's what it said. And then my favorite thing, which was Jesus on the cross, given as his last words, which in Christendom is, my God, why hast thou forsaken me?" Turns out he said something else. He's up there on the cross. He knows it's coming to an end. And so he said, "Eli, Eli, lamana shakbathad. My God, for this was I spared. This is my destiny." So rather than complain about the circumstances that we have created for ourselves in our life, the crosses that we have put ourselves up on, rather than complain about that and feel abandoned and helpless and hopeless, it is our job, if we want to follow this great teacher named Jesus, to say, "This is my destiny. For this did I come. I came to transmute and to overcome every seeming condition in my life, every limitation, every problem, to answer every question, to work miracles in my life, to raise the dead, to have everything work out perfectly. I came to do that, and I have that within me because I am already the presence of God. I am already the Christ. I am already the enlightened one. I am already all that I hope to ever be. All I have to do is wrap my head around it, look at the conditions in my life, and say, I am bigger than you are. I will not be afraid. I will not shrink back. I will triumph. I will rise up. And so it is.